I could have your attention, please, I'll call our meeting to order. This is the May meeting of the Wilson County Board of Zoning Appeals. We have a prepared agenda that was advertised earlier this month. At this time, do we have anybody that's on the agenda that wishes to withdraw or have your case deferred to another month? Karen, I think I have two that are withdrawn.
We do have two withdrawn cases. We have case 4093 that has been withdrawn by the applicant, and case 4097, which has been withdrawn by the applicant.
Okay, you got those so noted.
For clarification, for case 4093 is Benton Thomas Construction on behalf of Mark Levang, 2006 Port Andreas. And case 4097 that's been withdrawn is Wendy Deeds on behalf of Richard Norvell at 1120 Misty Lake Drive. So if anybody's here for either one of those cases, that's been withdrawn.
Okay. Moving further, we have a court reporter here with us this morning that's taking a record of our meeting. If you would like a transcript of a particular case, that's certainly available to you at your expense. And if you would like a transcript, please see the court reporter at the conclusion of the proceedings this morning. If you plan to make a statement in front of the board this morning, you need to be sworn in. So at this time, if you do intend to speak in front of the board, please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give in front of this board to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Just a reminder to everyone to silence your cell phones, please. When we call each case, I'll read the case number and what the case refers to. And at that point, we'll also get staff recommendations. Then we'll ask that the applicant come to the podium and make any statement in front of the board that they wish to make. And then we'll allow anyone who wishes to speak in addition, whether it be in support or opposition, to come forward and speak at that time. As I mentioned, the staff has made the recommendations to the board in regarding to each case, and we will consider those recommendations as we consider each case. Just as a reminder to everyone, the meeting this morning is being taped for inclusion on the Wilson County television and other platforms, so just be aware, if you care, that the cameras are operative this morning. The members of the board, you have the minutes in front of you from our April meeting that were sent to you earlier this month. You've had time to review those. Does anyone have any corrections they'd like to make to the minutes from the month of April? If not, do I hear a motion that we approve the minutes from our April meeting?
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from April. Any discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no, and the ayes have it. Okay. Okay, so Mr. Dowell not here this morning. Robinson City, Kim. Justin, you're our all. Okay, is that good? All right. So, moving into the agenda, case 4087 was deferred from our April meeting. Gary Merritt on behalf of Dewey Lineberry. This is requesting a variance to use an off-site septic system on property located in the county or commercial property located in the city of Mount Judy. Mr. Bashir, you want to give us just a short summary of your recommendation, please?
Yes, you may recall that this was deferred from last month's agenda to for the applicant to seek additional information about their septic system, their off-site septic system from the building that's just to the southeast of this property, which is the building they were wishing to serve on this property. The applicant is seeking a variance to use an off-site septic system on property located in the county for commercial property located in the city of Mount Juliet at 14415 Lebanon Road. Staff can recommend approval of the use of the existing septic system for the existing commercial building, since the existing veterinary, or the previous veterinarian's office that was in the building was already on septic. Staff sees little adverse effect in allowing that arrangement to continue. This is a little bit odd, as you may recall, because the primary building and the property just to the left of it, that front on Highway 70, that's just off the bottom of the map, are in the city limits of Lebanon, and they're all and those two plus the one that is highlighted are under the control of the same ownership. Thus, the septic system is on the portion that's in the county. As such, the City of Mount Juliet Planning Department will be requiring landscaping around the periphery of the property that is within the city limits. Given that part of the reason that they have those landscape standards, as I understand from talking to Jennifer Hamblin, is to provide for adequate buffers from residential areas. You'll notice that residential areas start in the county just north of this property. So we would ask that the applicants at least consider following along with Mount Juliet's landscape standards for periphery buffer in those areas as applicable per City of Mount Juliet standards. I'll leave that to you guys as to whether you're comfortable requiring that or just making it a request.
Right, thank you.
This is for, I think, a daycare is the proposed use.
We had our public hearing last month,
That's correct.
and then the applicant spoke, and then there's some other folks that spoke, and they have submitted the information that we requested.
Yes, sir.
I think everybody's had the opportunity to take a look at that. Okay. So in regard to 4087, do I hear a motion? I'll move we approve 4087 with the stipulation that the peripheral buffer around the property be installed, what should I say, Tom, in accordance with Mount Juliet requirements or your requirements?
I would say in this case, just for consistency, in accordance with Mount Juliet's landscape
So the
requirements.
periphery buffer would be installed in such a way to be consistent with the requirements of the city of Mount Juliet.
Yes.
All right, so that's my motion. I hear a second.
Second.
Have a motion, second. Discussion by the board.
I've got a question.
Sure.
We had a couple of people up here last time. I think that this couple right here really exists in this lot. I'm not an expert on septic systems, but they had a concern. They showed us pictures of the land flooded through the storms, and that water staying on top of the septic system. Has that been looked at all? Whether it's seeping into their complaint they had into their basement and so forth?
I don't think that stormwater has been called out to look at it during a rain event, so I can't speak to the drainage side. In terms of what it's doing to the septic system, or if anything, that would be the state of Tennessee's purview, and you have the information that was submitted.
Well, their complaint was that the water's staying on top of the lines, and I'm not an expert, but it would stand to me the reason that if the lines are there and it's leaching out into the land and you got stormwater sitting on top of it, it could be a problem for them.
Is the engineer who prepared this report with us this morning?
No.
No? Okay. So I don't think we have any, we can't offer you anything, Mr. Blaze, I don't know what. We asked them to get a report regarding capacity, I believe, and they have submitted that to us. And it's been submitted by a licensed engineer.
I know, I read it.
So that's what we have to go by.
Okay.
Well, that's what we have to rely on. Any other discussion by the board?
Who made the second?
Mr. Neal?
Neil.
If there's no other discussion in regard to case 4087, all in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposition?
No,
We have one opposed. So the motion to approve carries, 4 ayes and 1 opposition. Okay. Our next case is case 4089. Todd Marks is requesting to be able to apply for a building permit for property that does not have any road frontage. The request will allow the applicant to build a barn. The property is located at 288 Farmstead Lane, parcel 10, on Wilson County Tax Map 71. The property consists of 9.36 acres and is zoned R1 residential. The property became of record October of 1927. With staff recommendations now on 1489.
The applicant is requesting to be able to apply for a building permit for property that does not have any road frontage. The request will allow the applicant to build a barn. A building permit without a variance for road frontage was issued for this property on April 19th, 1996 for a residence which remains on the property. This is not an older tract of record from staff's research, and given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval, though staff sees no adverse effects if approval is granted, being that it would be accessory to an existing residence that by some means was permitted in 1996.
Explain to me, if you would, how come that if it became a record in 27 that you can't recommend approval?
I may have to rely on my staff who did the research on that one.
Can you repeat that question?
In the agenda, it says that the property became a record in October of 1927, which would make it an ancient lot.
It's 1996.
I've got a deed from October
Okay.
1927 that states a little bit over 9 acres.
Yeah,
Okay.
this deed that Mr. Neal was just showing me here that's in our packet, is dated in 1927.
Okay, well then,
If that's-
staff would be able to recommend approval.
Yeah, if that's the case, it's a
The
grandfather
house
lot.
was built in 96 without an older lot of record variance. I apologize.
It probably should have been given.
Correct.
All right. Okay, so we read the case, we've got staff comments. Who's here to represent 4089, Todd Marks? Do you have anything you'd like to tell the board, sir? If you do, you can come up front here. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
Todd Marks, 288 Farmstead Lane.
Anything you'd like to tell the board, Mr. Marks?
Well, the reason it don't have any road frontage now, if you look, there used to be a road, a county road, following to a railroad track. And it went up to the right of the stream and then buried off in behind another property.
But just to let you know, anything that was created prior to 73 or 72.
72. 74.
74,
74.
excuse me, I was
Yeah.
wrong. Anything before 74, before the ordinance was created, a free pass on a lot of things, because it was before the law was created. Staff recommended approval. Anyone else wish to speak to 4089 Marks?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, given the additional information and miscommunication on our part, I would like the staff comments to reflect that we can recommend approval based on the era of the lot.
Gotcha. Okay. All right, if no one else wishes to speak, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you, sir. Turning to the board in regard to 4089, do I have a discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve 4089. Any discussion? Not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. Excuse me, pardon me. In regard to 4089, we have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Okay, now I have a second. Any discussion? Not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Next case is case 4090. Tyler Howard is requesting a 12-month extension on the building permit that expired April 15, 2023. The footing inspection passed on February 15, 2022. The property is located at 415 Gwynn Road, Lot 2, Matty Johnson property, parcel 4.06 on Wilson County Tax Map 141. The property consists of 6.43 acres and is on A1 agricultural. We get staff recommendations now on 4090.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a 12-month extension on a building permit that expired on April 15th of 2023, so last month. The building permit issued in the county expires 24 months after issuance, in which the structure or residence is to be completed unless the applicant receives some sort of extension or relief from this board, none of which has been done for this structure in the 24-month period, or within the 24-month period. There is no language in the zoning ordinance that discusses staff authority to grant permit extensions. However, the board may consider such request.
Okay, who's here to represent 4090 Howard? Yes, sir. Come forward, please. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Tyler Howard, 4015 Wayne Road.
And how far along are you, Mr. Howard?
We started the project, as stated, I guess, almost 2 years ago, but this was some financial difficulties. Got behind, but we're back on track with the loan to close in a couple of weeks. So that's why I was asking for the 12-month extension.
So 12 months, though, you think will be enough?
You think you can get it built and completed in 12 months?
That's what the builder's saying 8, so I think 12 is comfortable. But if you want to, if it would be safe and willing to do it more than 12, then that would be great.
We don't want to do any more than you need,
Okay.
because we're already on a
Right.
overage thing
Right.
here.
It's a pretty simple build, so it shouldn't, 12 months, I think we'll get it, so.
Does the board have other questions for the applicant?
How far along are you, or
Just
the footing?
Just the footing ready for the slab. So they're taking over at the slab, so.
Anyone else? Okay. Anyone else? Does anyone else wish to speak to 4090 Tyler Howard? If not, then we'll close the public hearing. Turn it to the board for discussion or a motion in regard to 4090.
I make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve 4090. Do I have a second? Have a second, Mr. Robinson. Discussion by the board. If there's no discussion, all in favor of the motion, vote aye. Aye. Opposition, vote no. The ayes have it. Okay. Our next case is 4091. Randy Gibson requesting a church use on A1 agricultural zone property. Applicant is also seeking a variance of 4 feet from the setback requirement of 8 feet between structures. The variance will allow the proposed portable building used for classrooms to be 4 foot from the existing stables. The property is located at 10471 Highway 109 North, parcel 28 on Wilson County Tax Map 10. The property consists of 45.5 acres. We get staff recommendations on 4091.
The applicant is requesting a church use on A1 agricultural zone property. The applicant is also requesting a variance of 4 feet from the setback requirement of 8 feet between structures. The variance will allow the proposed portable building used for classrooms to be 4 feet from the existing stables. Staff can recommend approval of the church use on the property. However, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval for the variance, as this is not an old attractive record nor an irregularly shaped lot. I will point out that this entire property falls under an agricultural status and has some other uses on it, including some agri-tainment type uses. that you may be familiar with.
Okay. Who's here to represent 4091? Gibson, Randy Gibson. Yes, sir.
I'm Randy Gibson, one of the elders with Mending Fences Cowboy Church.
Can you give us your address, please?
It's 3791 Ginger Stray Road, Mount Juliet.
Thank you, sir. And what else would you like to tell the board?
This is a small church that we rent space from Mr. Wilform, and he allowed us to put this portable building out here on his property, and we were just seeking this variance to get approval to do this, so we can have a meeting place for our, we call them our wranglers, our Sunday school class for our young ones.
Mr. Chair? Being that this property kind of hits two areas of gray, we might want to talk to the county attorney about what our ability as staff, at least, if not board, is to mandate or require the full compliance with the setback issue. We would typically require 8 foot of separation between buildings. This does involve a church use. It also involves an agricultural exemption in part because of some of the other uses ongoing on the property. So my question, we have said we cannot recommend approval of the setback variance just by the letter of the zoning ordinance.
Sure. But you've got, as you've noted already, you've got those other factors in play, especially the religious exemption part of it. So I'm not sure how solid we would be on the denial. How solid our
If we were to approve the variance, then that goes away. And if we approve it subject to the church existence, that it further goes. Well, it would go away if the church were to cease.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Anyone else here wish to speak to 4091? Randy Gibson.
There is someone else back here.
If you would please have a seat.
I didn't sign in.
You're
My
what?
name is Jody McMahon.
Did you, excuse me, ma'am, did you take the oath?
No, but I will.
Can you come up to the
Come on
podium
up.
so that the speaker system can hear you well?
Okay, first things first, let's sign you in.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that the testimony that you're about to give before this board will be the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Hey, sir.
Now state your name and address for the record.
Geraldine McMahon. I'm Clyde McMahon's wife, and we live at 70 Cherokee Dock Road, which backs up to that property. And they don't take care of it. They keep adding stuff, and they don't even bush hog the grass, and they're going to add the church probably on our side. And we're not allowed to have privacy fence. I just don't think they should add anything else in that property. I think it's
I guess that's a private restriction.
all the houses along that property backs up it backs up to it. And all they have is like a 3-thing fence, and it's the whole road. And I don't know, they haven't specified exactly where it is, because I don't know where the church is going to be built.
Ma'am, my understanding is they're currently meeting in part of Reba's old barn. We refer to it as Reba's old barn. And the portable building that they're talking about is just off of that facility. About 4 feet.
Behind it or close to our houses?
It's directly behind the.
It's directly behind it.
Building would be a few feet.
Well, as long as it doesn't add more traffic closer to us, I guess it would be all right.
That they're,
But they're going to probably build a bigger church later on, you're not?
well, that would possibly be another issue.
Yeah. Okay, well, we see that traffic going back and forth, and they don't take care of the property as it is.
Our authority over churches is severely limited. And we can't say a whole lot. There's just a few things we can consider. And what they're asking for is to use the existing building for a church. And they're also asking for a variance so that the temporary building can be between the existing building and that little loop road that's right around the building.
Oh, that's a bit.
Right up there.
You have the exit in the back street there where you go,
The exit's on 109.
oh, 109, because there's a back street back there too.
No, we don't use that.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all right, as long as it's not going to be next to our property.
I don't think so.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I probably need to add something here. We have an unusual application in front of the Wilson County Beer Board on this property, and that is that Mr. Wilfong is seeking a beer application, and it might help this lady what she just said, but in his amended application, the church has agreed that they have no opposition to the beer being sold there, and they have said that they only meet 1 hour a week, and they've sworn to that, so that might help alleviate some of her concern. So we have a distance ordinance in this county,
Yeah.
and,
But can the church just say we don't care and that's okay?
no, but they have provided me a case out of Davidson County where the judge said that the definition of a church is the established brick and mortar church that we look at like across the street or all over this county. But the one they had was meeting somewhere else, and he said that was not an established church, which raises an interesting question because we have schools in our county that allow churches to use the facilities on Sunday and Wednesday. So anyway, they have amended their application. We'll be back next month. The only reason I said all that, it doesn't have anything to do with what y'all are doing, other than to help her concern because they have said they're only going to meet an hour a week.
The church is only going to be an hour.
Yes, the church.
Not the
I
bar.
can't speak for the church. Yeah.
Okay. So in front of a separate board, we are not the beer board, we're something else. This owner of this property has made application for a beer permit. And in that application, this church has supplied information that they only meet 1 hour, once a week.
1 hour once a week, and they have no opposition to the request for this.
They have no opposition to the beer permit.
Which I have never seen in 34 years. Unusual.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to 4091 Randy Gibson? If not, we'll close the public hearing in this case. And turning back to the board, do we have any discussion or do I hear a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the request for the church and to approve the variance for the setback with the stipulation that the variance for the setback only applies to the church use. If the church use is to cease, the variance will cease also. Okay? Now, does anyone, that's my motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Now, any discussion by the board? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank y'all very much. Our next case is case 4092. Ashley DeCarmo is seeking a variance of 7 feet from the north rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet and a variance of 6 feet from the northeast rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet for shed number 1. Shed number 1 is 3 feet from the north rear property line and 4 feet from the northeast property line. Applicant is also requesting a variance of 5 feet from the southeast rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet and a variance of 8 feet from the south rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet. For shed number 2. Shed number 2 is 5 feet from the southeast rear property line and 2 feet from the south rear property line. The property is located at 200 Sondra Court, Lot 282, Kennel Station, Group C, Part 36, on Wilson County Tax Map 99K. The property consists of .549 acres and is on R1 residential. We get staff recommendations now on 4092.
Mr. Chairman, this is one you've seen before a couple of months ago, I believe, and it came to light during the comments that there was an existing set of sheds that are back in this vicinity on the property, in the back, very back corner where it kind of doglegs back. Given that, the applicant is requesting a variance of 7 feet from the north rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet and a variance of 6 feet from the northeast rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet for shed number 1. Shed number 1 is also 3 feet from the north rear property line and 4 feet from the northeast rear property line. The applicant is also requesting a variance of 5 feet from the southeast rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet and a variance of 8 feet from the south rear yard setback requirement of 10 feet for shed number 2. Shed 2 is 5 feet from the southeast rear yard property line and 2 feet from the south rear property line. This is not an older tract of record. The property does have an irregular shape. Therefore, given language in the zoning ordinance, staff can, I believe, recommend approval.
Okay, who's here to represent 4092 Carmo? Yes, ma'am.
Ashley DuCarmo, 200 Sandra Court. I did get approval with the septic department. There's no utilities back there. Septic told me as long as we don't, of course, run any lines or anything like that, that's forever. And it's just kind of dead space back there. So we maintain it and we don't have any complaints from our neighbors or anything like that.
Okay, does the board have any questions for the applicant?
There's no restrictions there, how many sheds you can
Correct.
put back there?
Yeah, no HOA restrictions or anything
County
like
doesn't
that.
have anything?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't have anything to do with the restrictions anyways, but
Yeah, right.
to my knowledge, I've not heard of any in Dental Station. And these sheds are existing, on an existing pad.
Yes, correct.
Other questions from the board?
I believe when it came to light that they had an issue, they wanted to get it resolved after coming to their previous case.
Yeah, we didn't know it was an issue with all that, so we were just trying to do the correct steps to put everything in order.
Okay. If there's no questions from the board, does anyone else here wish to address 4092? DeCarmo? Okay, if there's no one else, we'll close the public hearing. And in regard to 4092, does the board have any other discussion you'd like to make? Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve 4092. Have a second?
One second.
Have a motion and a second to approve 4092. Any discussion? And if not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank you. All right, 4093 has been withdrawn. And our next case is 4094 Urban. Miles Urban, is that right, Miles? Okay, did I pronounce that right? Is it Miles?
Yes, Miles.
Okay. Requesting a variance of 15 feet from the front yard setback requirement of 30 feet, a variance of 4 feet from the west side yard setback requirement of 15 feet, and a variance of 39 feet from the rear yard setback requirement of 40 feet. The existing house is 15 feet from the front property line and 11 feet from the west side property. The variance on the rear will allow the proposed addition to be 1 foot from the rear property line. The addition will be located where the existing deck is. The property is located at 5493 Vanderbilt Road, Lot 24. Noblehurst is Group B, Parcel 2 on Wilson County Tax Map 50. The property consists of approximately 6,800 square feet and is on R1 residential. We get staff recommendations now on 4094.
Mr. Chairman, you've aptly stated what the variance requests are, to be 15 foot from the front, if granted, to be 11 foot from the west side yard property line, if granted, and 1 foot from the rear property line, which happens to be, I believe, a Corps of Engineers property line, if granted. I've got a question for staff. Our comments say this is not an older lot of record. It's Noblehurst subdivision. I thought that was a fairly dated subdivision, like 1960s. Yeah.
The lake's in the background, I noticed it in the photos.
I'll have to be able to check that out.
Okay. Our staff comments state that it's not an older lot of record and it's not irregularly shaped, therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff did not recommend approval, but I feel like we need to verify that.
The plat shows it backing up to Old Hickory Lake.
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm questioning is the date of the subdivision.
Date of the
lot.
plat.
Date of the plat.
Since the home was built in 1960, I don't
Yeah.
know exactly who.
I'm pretty sure Noblehurst is an older lot of record.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, I do need to add something. I failed to add a variance for lot size. It is on the application, and I just failed to add it to the request. So they do need a lot size variance. They're,
Oh,
from the 40,000 square feet, their lot size is approximately
33.2 or something like that.
33,500 square feet, so a variance of 6,500 square feet.
That just need to help them on title searches and stuff.
Now, wait a minute. Run that calculation by me again.
The lot size is approximately 33,500 square feet.
No, the lot size is 6,800 according to the notes I have. And if it's a 40,000 square foot requirement, that would be 33.2. We're on 4094.
They're needing a variance of the 33,000, approximately
33,200.
Right. I read it backwards. And it is, they did apply for that variance, I just failed to add it to the request.
Okay. And where'd Christopher go? Is he checking on that?
I think so.
So,
I have a question.
Is the lot size in over 140,000? Yes.
okay, one thing, lot size is 40,000. Yes, sir.
What's the status of the perk site? Are we going to do a soil test to see about additional perk sites,
Yes.
soil sites?
We're working on that.
Well, wait a minute, I don't have
I
this.
haven't signed in, sorry.
Hold on, folks. One thing at a time. Your question was answered. They said they were working on the soil site, but that's a state thing.
Okay. But the reason I'm asking that question, that could negate this whole thing until you get your soil sites where they're going to be as far as us approving all these additions and moving lines, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. But
Well, I think it's fine for us to tell them they have to identify the soils area before they get a building permit.
Mr. Chairman, I'm
But wait just a minute. let me
Sorry,
finish.
I'm sorry.
But they're here for variances. They're not here for these soils, which we don't have anything to do anyway.
Exactly.
But it's fine to make the stipulation that they need to get that squared away before they move forward.
that's my point.
Yes, Tom?
I am fairly confident, Bate, I just looked up the tax card, and the plat book that's referenced on the tax card is plat book 2. So I'm fairly confident this will be an older lot of record.
If it's book 2, it
Yeah.
would probably take way on that. Okay. All right, so we've
So
got staff.
I apologize for that. I've been,
We're going to move forward for the next few minutes
Okay.
based on the fact we believe this will be an older lot.
okay.
Okay, now, who's here to represent 4094 Irvin? That's you. Can you come forward? Okay, if you have a child, you can stay back there, that's okay. All right, did you sign in?
I didn't know what
Did you take the oath?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, well, let's sign in. And you can bring the youngster up with you if you need to.
Sorry.
It's not a problem.
I'm a teacher and we had some situations. My address or this address? Because I live somewhere else. This
Your
is
address,
just-
where we could contact you if we needed to. Okay, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth?
I do.
Okay, you're sworn. Now your name and address for the record, again, verbally.
My name is Shauna Irvin, Miles Irvin wife. My address is 2130 Grandstand Drive, Las Casas, Tennessee, but we just purchased this property, 5493 Vanderbilt Road in Old Hickory.
Gotcha, okay. Now, what would you like to tell the board?
This was previously my grandmother's house. She lived there for 30 years, but it got left to another person, so we had to purchase it. We actually moved her to a home and then bought the house. She was just not able to live there on her own. So we just wanted it as a lake house for my family because I grew up there summers and all that. And we weren't, the house, all the variances, I guess, we're not really looking to add on more than just where the deck is, just enclose that into a livable area. So we're not looking.
You're not gonna take in any additional space that's not already covered.
Except for, there's a deck on the, that's the problem with on the back side of the house. You could kind of see like the area, it's an L shape around it. Yes.
that?
Yes, it's all a deck that's been there for 30 years or so. And we were just going to, where that area is, make that a livable space.
Where the deck.
Where the deck is. So
Do you know where the septic is located?
I do not. My husband has been talking to people to get them out there to, he's in contact with a soil scientist to get out there to do a perk, because we couldn't find any septic perks on record either. Obviously it had to be at some point, but we were unable to find that.
What's the requested 15-foot variance in the front? What is?
It's just that far from the road already.
Okay.
The
That's
house
just clearing
pre-existing.
something
That's
up.
pre-existing.
Yeah, most of these variances are pre-existing.
Yes,
I believe.
everything except for we just want to build where the deck is on the back, just enclose, like make that a livable area rather than just
And
a
for the
deck.
benefit of those who are new to the board, that may not have been here long enough to hear this, Tom, the Corps has previously told us that as long as we don't cross the line,
Yes,
they don't have a setback requirement or a desire, they just don't care,
right.
basically. Don't get over the Corps line.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the board for the applicant? Okay. If not, anyone else here wish to address 4094 Irvin? Okay. All right, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Turning to the board, if there's not any further discussion, we'll hear a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I will move that we approve this case based on the testimony given here, and it is an older lot of record. And then even though some of the variances do seem excessive, number one, it does back up to the Corps. We have a history of allowing variances.
They seem excessive, but they're pretty consistent with other lots.
With other lots in this situation, you know.
Before we, you have a motion, have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second. Before we move forward, Chris, can we verify this is an older lot?
It was created in October of 1952.
Okay, so it's okay, so it's an older lot, we don't have to worry about that. All right, so have a motion and have a second, any discussion? All in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposition, vote no. The ayes have it. Okay. Thank you much. Next case is 4095. Mario Castro is requesting to use the property for vehicle maintenance, repair, and painting. The property is located at 4421 Mucksboro Road, lots 6 and 7. Ben Wright property, parcel 3.06 on Wilson County Tax Map 124. The property consists of 10.34 acres and is on C2 General Commercial. Get staff recommendations on 4095.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to use the property for vehicle maintenance, repair, and painting. This property, I believe, has been granted a similar use in the past, and staff sees no adverse effects if the use for vehicle maintenance, repair, and painting is granted. Given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff can recommend approval with some provision made for limitation on storage of vehicles that are being worked on, and along with clarification of the proposed location of said automobile storage while awaiting service or pickup. And that should have said location and number of vehicles is what I was getting at. If you look at their plot plan, they have a proposed gravel area they're proposing behind this building, the front building with the black roof, that's about the same size as the building, roughly. And then they have a elongated, I think 15 by 60 gravel parking area they're proposing right here. And I think they may have another one back here on their proposed plot plan and information packet that they provided. I was just hoping that they could clarify how many they anticipated storing on site while they were working on them, or while they were awaiting pickup from customers. And I thought y'all may want some either indication from the applicant or provision, if you did choose to approve it, on where you want to see those cars stored on the property.
Now, this existing building was there when this was rezoned C2.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to ask Mr. Jennings. So we have a parcel and it had an existing building on it, and it was rezoned C2. Okay, it's never met any commercial requirements, to my knowledge, at all. Nobody's ever done site plan. Nobody's ever done anything. Pretty much hasn't really been used too much since it was rezoned. I don't think really been that big of a location. But anyway, question is, there was a building, it was rezoned C2. Shouldn't a site plan and commercial requirements come into play?
I would think the shoe from the hip, Mr. Chairman, that you could make that part of your branch.
With that, I mean, when somebody rezoned this, they had to understand that C2 was a commercial district and it had requirements.
Typically, we have not instigated or inspired or instigated commercial requirements to take effect, I guess, until such time as they propose an addition. Now, in this case, with those proposed storage parking areas, that would constitute a need for a site plan. Typically, it would go to the planning commission.
That's where I'm hung up. I don't understand, because if that's the case, we wouldn't require commercial standard on any parcel that had any structure on it when it was rezoned.
Well, we haven't required, unless the Board of Zoning Appeals chose to tell them they have to meet those standards, we haven't required any commercial improvements such as commercial landscaping, paving, sewer connection, or building material. I think are the four biggies that we would require a new building that was being constructed or a new addition that was being built to meet. Once they do one of those things, we can require some of that. These proposed,
but they changed the use.
Yes, they have.
And you say you can change the use and not meet commercial standards just because you don't want to.
If they're not making structural improvements to the property, I don't really feel that I can force them to put a brick applique across the front of a metal building. Now, if they make an addition, yes, I can make the addition meet the current building material standard. I can also require them to meet their landscaping standards. But that's up for debate, I suppose.
Well, we've not been tested on this, so I don't know whether the requirement would hold up or not. Out of fairness to anybody else that's having that zone, in that particular zoning category, having to do it, it seems like we don't have it's just, there's no everything as much as it is.
Well, I guess what goes on out of this board is not not for our consideration. But what goes on in here is, and that's really.
Yeah, I do think that you have the authority to dictate that they must meet whichever commercial standards you wish. You can say all commercial standards. You can say specifically landscaping and paving standards.
I just sort of want to know where we
Yes.
stood before we proceeded with the case.
Yes, sir. We've talked about this a couple of times, and I'm glad you did.
I think it's saying the same thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Based on our packet, back in June 16th of last year, this board actually took action, and it says in there that we actually okay to have a welding shop.
Yes, sir.
Based on meeting commercial standards?
Said it must be brought up commercial standards if each chose to expand. We are actually already kind of had a ruling on this.
And I'm not sure if the welding shop ever commenced.
I'm not either.
Yeah.
I'm not. We'll get to you. We're not there yet. We're sort of laying some groundwork. Okay, so, Tom, we've heard all your recommendations, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, now, who's here to represent 4094 Mario Castro? Yes, excuse me, 4095 Mario Castro. Come forward, please. And if you would give us your name and address for the record.
Good morning. My name is Fadi Asinasius, not Mario. It's Mario. I'm just here to represent him because he didn't speak much English.
Okay.
Okay.
What would you like to tell the board?
I'm sorry?
What would you like to tell the board?
So actually, I'm the agent who bought this property from my client, which he is a landlord. And actually, the welding shop, it worked, but it didn't do a really great job because the area was not good for it. So that's why we trying to do it a car shop, so the traffic will be a little bit better for it. We know the board might have a problem with parking outside because we heard a lot about the open flea market right there, but we made sure to put in the letter like no cars will be parked in the street. Like we have electric gate, we'll make sure it will be open the whole time in the business hours. And for the building, actually when we bought the property, the building, just the garage was zoned as commercial. It's 0.34 acre, and then we rezoned the whole property to commercial C2. I see you guys talking about commercial standards. We would love to do anything to make it work. Like
Now,
if you guys,
to be clear, if you're talking about fully meeting commercial standards,
Mhm.
there are, as I stated, there are 4 big ones.
Mhm.
There are landscaping requirements
Mhm.
that are commercial. They include things like having a street tree every 40 feet on center and a hedge between them.
Okay.
That's built at 5-foot centers within the front 10 feet of the property.
Mhm.
There's a paving requirement
Mhm.
for all of your parking areas, which right now you've only got a portion that's paved.
Mhm.
So all of the proposed parking areas that are on your plot plan, we would need effectively what it would require is you would have to submit a site plan to the planning commission
Mhm.
that shows that you're complying with those first 2. There's also building material requirements.
Okay.
You would have to, on your road fronting sides, you would have to have brickstone or some other material that's deemed acceptable by the planning commission, specifically excluding metal siding.
Mhm.
And that would go 25 feet, or 25% of the way down each side from the front as well, of
Okay.
each building.
Okay.
And then finally, probably another big one is public sewer connection requirement. There is no city sanitary sewer, to my knowledge, off of Murfreesboro Road, but you can talk to the Water and Wastewater Authority about installing an on-site public sewer system known as a step system.
Mhm.
Just for reference, the Dollar General marketplace, or the Dollar General store that's not too far from here, operates off of one of those on-site step systems. So you would have to talk to the Water and Wastewater Authority, who's the provider. In effect, the effect would be that you would be paying a sewer bill to them in return for maintenance of your modified septic system, that they would tell you how to modify, and there's some expense associated with that. So
Okay. Okay.
I want to be clear about
Okay, sounds
what
good.
that, if they require that, what that would be.
Okay.
Anything else you'd like to tell the board, sir?
No, sir. Actually, we have the plans and everything printed out from the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, does the board have any questions? Yes, sir.
Based on what this board ruled last June, in here said there should be any kind of outside storage. The picture you provided us, to me, it looks like there's a bunch of vehicles stored on the top.
Right now?
Vehicles stored next.
Those are from field review. Are they not, Christopher?
They are,
yes,
sir.
There are still vehicles stored today?
The pictures from that, there are the vehicles that are on site, only did our field review this one.
How many vehicles are there?
I don't know, take my property, take a look at the pictures.
Those are from 2 weeks ago.
How many would you say were out there?
4 maybe.
4 or 5?
Yeah, there were not a ton.
Okay.
But they, as well, they rent the house and the property, and they live in the house and the property. So they rented the whole property. That's why you'll see some cars in there.
So there's
Because-
there's a residence on this?
Yeah, there is a house. There's a house plus the garage. So they rented the whole property. That's why you'll see some cars in there, because
I
they
thought
live
they
there.
were 2 separate parcels, but they're not, are they? They're one parcel. I see it now.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I have a comment. I believe as is in here, it's too open. You know, what your intentions are today are not always your intentions 2 years down the road. And I can see that ballooning out of control if there's not something set as far as cars here, cars there. And I know that's probably not in our jurisdiction, but I'm just not comfortable unless it went through these other channels.
Well, what's out there now is a white block building with some paving around it. And there's a house next door. What we told the folks at the welding, they want to have a welding shop. Of course, there's no commercial standards at play here. This was rezoned from I guess, an A1 piece of property.
Yes, sir.
So, what we told the people at the welding shop was, you can hold a welding shop, but if you do anything else, like if you want to expand the building, or if you want to have a shed outside or anything, then you have to meet the full range of commercial standards. And evidently, they, over a few months, I don't want to get bid or not, but things, do go their way, they're not there yet. So I think that's, and we didn't address the number of vehicles outside at all. We just said no storage outside. Of course, the welding shop, that might be a little easier to do than a car repair.
That's my comments about the cars.
Well, I think, and we haven't heard all the testimony yet and whatnot, but I think there are ways or we can stipulate, is it 3 cars at a time, or 5, or 100, whatever you're comfortable on site, if at all. Let's continue with the public hearing. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Does anyone else here wish to speak to 4095 Castro? Yes, sir, you wish to speak?
No, he just.
Okay. He does not wish to speak? Okay. If no one else wishes to address case 4095, then we'll close the public hearing and turn to the board for discussion and action. So does the board have any further discussion or questions for staff?
Well, I may have questions for the gentleman presenting this. I mean, I'm reading here that about 30 cars, 15 by 60 pieces of land will be used to park about 30 cars daily. I mean, I'm going to kind of like, where exactly is that? And is that
Sir, would you come back up?
or where?
I may have jumped the gun.
Yeah, and I should have spoke up earlier. I don't know. I was kind of.
The board has a question for you.
Sure.
In regard to this here under subject 3,
Mhm.
where, since 30 cars will be parked, where exactly will they be parked?
Okay,
And I may
so
need a map. I don't know that I've-
There is a map in the packet that indicates it in a fairly informal way.
Okay, yeah. I didn't really, that may be it there. I didn't really see, it was never made clear to me, I guess.
Let's see it on here.
Yeah, I didn't ever find it either.
You know what I'm talking about? It had a drawing on it.
There was a picture in here that had the
I know
proposed parking
the
area.
informal map that the
Here it is.
Cowboys,
Oh.
Cowboys just had.
They had,
They've got a description of each of these, I think, a couple of pages back, there's 1, 2, and 3.
All right.
Sorry, I'm having to parse through this.
Well,
so there's 1, 2, and 3 right there.
Yes, but they've got a description on another page.
yeah, that's the page I was on there. Yeah, I think number 2 was where the
Yeah,
30 cars are going to be. All right, maybe I can kind of piece that together,
Okay,
come
so
up with a better idea.
But that's behind the building. This is behind the house. This is,
Number 2 was where they were gonna park the 30 cars, correct?
I'm not, anyway, yeah,
Well, I mean,
that's their proposal.
that's proposal, right?
So, that number 2 is the 15 by 60, as I recall.
Okay.
And I don't recall the dimensions.
All right.
Number 3.
Yeah, I'll put them all together. Number 3 is the 15 by 60.
And as well, I wanted to add something. We are really open to park the car all the way in the back in the property.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
You need to be aware, this is not a proposal for a junkyard.
Mm-hmm.
Parking a car means it's being parked because it's going to be worked on in the next day or two, or somebody's going to pick it up in a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
It is not long-term storage. If you look up the highway a half a mile, we've got a guy up there we're having all kind of issues with, and we're probably headed to court with him, and because he's got way yonder more vehicles than he's supposed to have.
Okay.
Maybe, we'll see.
Just for
But-
reference, I've cited that one.
Beg pardon?
Just for reference, I've cited that one again.
Right, so, parking cars does not mean junkyard, does not mean dismantling cars.
sir.
I mean, parking cars is, we're gonna work on them in a day or two, and they're finished and ready to be picked up. I don't, why would you need 30 cars in a scenario like that?
So he is working with insurance company, so he fixes cars for insurance company. So that's why we did a little bit more just in case if it get busy, we will
So
let
if
you
the
know
insurance
ahead.
company takes 3 months, that car could be sitting there 3 months.
No, the insurance company they usually fast because you don't want to pay money on storage and fees and stuff like that. Usually they send the guy the next day. So, and he has his guys also as well work for him. It's just not gonna be him.
How many employees does he have?
How many employees? 5.
5 employees. So
Yes.
you gotta have places for 5 people to park cars. Are they gonna live in the house?
I think they are the ones gonna live in the house.
So you got residents in the house,
Mhm.
5 employees.
Mhm.
You're probably talking about 9 or 10 cars between the residents.
So you got 9 or 10 cars there before you even bring.
That's
the
why we said-
customers into play.
That's why we said totally 30 cars a day on the lot.
And all these people are on this septic system.
Yes. Actually the garage has a bathroom on it too, not just the house.
I think the welding shop was a guy, you know, it was a gentleman who
Yes,
wanted to have a
yes.
welding shop.
Yes.
What you're describing here is a full-blown, in my mind, a full-blown commercial use.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got a lot of dimensions to it.
Mhm.
So, although, but it is a commercial piece of property. At some point, the county commission said, this is good for commercial. You were probably on there.
But the use itself is a use on appeal in this district.
I understand. Which, for a use on appeal, we have to have a reason not to approve it, basically.
Yes, sir.
That's correct. It meets the requirements.
A reason not to, not a reason to.
And that, yeah, the burden of proof is on us not to. So, okay, so we're ready for a motion. I'm gonna move that we approve for 095 Castro with the stipulations that you meet all commercial requirements.
Okay, thank you.
And that would include submittal of a site plan to the planning commission before
Okay.
you get started.
But, I mean, in my mind, in order to do something of this scale, it's already a commercial, it's a C2 zone.
Yes,
In
sir.
order to do something of this scale, you need a full development of requirements. I have a second.
Second.
Have a motion, now discussion by the board.
Not to complicate it anymore. We've ruled on this, so he can't go before the planning or just, he can't come back and request paving that he doesn't want to pay or doesn't want to do something other. Or can he come back and request?
I mean, he can always come back and request those variances, but the way y'all have presented your motion, he's got to submit a site plan, or you don't, but your applicant has to submit a site plan, and that's somewhat clearly prepared, preferably by a surveyor engineer type. And you've got to meet those 4 criteria I was talking about building materials and
Okay.
landscaping, paving, and
let me say that
the public
this
sewer.
has to be done before you go into business. We
Right.
got a guy out there right now that
Right.
got a site plan and went,
Right.
got it approved, and he went off and went to work.
Uh,
And he hasn't finished his situation. That's wrong.
Right.
the chances of that being enforced are slim to none. That's just a side discussion, I guess.
Do we need to make that part of the motion that this has to be done before he's commenced his business?
I would say if that's what,
Or
if that's your
let me
desire.
state that the motion is to approve case 4095 Castro with the stipulation that he meets all the commercial standards and the further stipulation that it be completed before he starts work.
Yes.
All right, now that's the motion restated. Not second, okay?
I'm okay with the amendment,
Okay,
yes.
okay with the motion is restated or amended now. Thank you, sir. I think we're done
Thanks so
with
much.
you. You can have seats if you want to. Any discussion by the board? Ready further discussion? If not, all in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposition vote no. The ayes have it. Thank y'all for coming. Okay. Our next case is case 4096, Nancy Speck, requesting a variance of 5 feet from the south side yard setback requirement of 10 feet. The variance will allow the proposed accessory structure to be 5 feet from the south side property line. The property is located at 1703 Magnolia Drive, Lot 20, Henley Acres, parcel 42.27 on Wilson County Tax Map 59. The property consists of 1.06 acres and is zoned R1 residential. Get staff recommendations now on 4096.
This applicant is requesting the variance of 5 feet from the south side setback requirement of 10 feet. This is not an older lot of record, nor is it irregularly shaped in terms of the lot configuration. Therefore, given the language in the zoning ordinance, staff cannot recommend approval.
Okay, who's here to represent 4096 Speck? Yes, sir.
I did sign in earlier.
Good.
I'm Jim Speck, 1703 Magnolia Drive here in Lebanon. I am Nancy Speck's husband. We've lived on the property for 37 years. I own the property on either side of me. It's my in-laws lived on one side when they passed. That became our property. That's the property with the where we're wanting the variance. I also own the property on the other side. It's a rental house that we own. My father-in-law built the subdivision, and my family owns most of the property, all the property on the street, as rental properties or personal homes. The reason we're wanting that, there's a structure on there right now that's just a 10 by 20 foot storage building, simple storage building, that's not encroaching on the property line. I'm going to move that and simply build a 33 by 40 foot storage building. I have a 30-foot travel trailer that I want to be able to back into this building, and to be able to access both bay doors. It'll have 2 bay doors on the front. In order to access that straight on, I need that shifted 5 feet so I can do that.
So you're talking about removing that building up there?
Yes, that little building there will be gone.
That building will be gone, and you're replacing it with a 2-bay.
Two bay garage metal storage building, Edmark Constructions, who I'm planning on using. And you can see the camper sitting on the driveway. If I move it 5 feet over, I'll be able to back that straight into the site and access both doors. If I can't move it over, then one of the doors is going to be behind the patio that's there. I've checked. It also gives me, my septic lines are in the backyard, so by moving it over 5 feet, it gives me some additional clearance to the septic lines.
How far is it between your proposed building and the existing septic line?
No. If I move it over, I'll be like 20 to 25 feet from my septic lines.
I think it's supposed to be 10.
Yeah. And I talked to the wastewater, talked to John Petty, I think's his name. And
Is this going to be a single-story structure?
Yes.
Do you know what total height?
12-foot doors, So it'll be a 14-foot wall, but depending on the pitch that we do, I think it's gonna be approximately 20 feet now.
Okay.
I talked to him about the septic lines, and he said, you know, we were fine. The only thing they would get involved in is if I had to have new septic lines put in the future, you know, which I wouldn't run back in that area anyway, so.
The board have questions for the applicant?
I do have one question too. With a variance like that, is that 5 feet from the wall of the structure,
Yes.
or it'll have like a 1-foot overhang with a
It's not,
gutter
it
on it?
does not include just
Okay,
the wall.
Just the wall of it, okay. Because I've gotten that answer, two different answers from.
Well, previously, we did measure from the eave, but
Okay.
we simplified it several years back,
Good.
because the eaves are different sizes
Okay.
on different buildings.
And I wanted, you know, I'm not
Is there
planning
any
on.
other reason you want this other than just you want it?
No, I just, well, I mean, I've lived there for 37 years. It'll look better as far as appearance, and everyone wants their home to look, well, I try and maintain our
I
property.
mean, what I'm getting at is there's only certain instances in which we're supposed to grant variances.
Mhm.
Not just, you know, somebody says, well, this is to make me more money, or to make my life easier on me.
Right.
That's not really one, those aren't really good reasons, you
Right.
know.
Well, it just gives me, like I said, it makes the building more practical for me. And it's a big investment for me to improve my property too.
Jim,
Yes.
we're also landlords, so we will use that to store the things we work on our property, and it'll also protect our camper. We have a vintage camper, it's a 1983, for protection for that too.
Yeah. So.
Okay, the board have any questions for that? Or ask?
But I wanted to do it.
You know, I think I did hear him mention the field lines, and that is not an absolute, that's not an absolute hardship, but that's a, you know,
Gray
sort of a
area.
hardship.
Yeah.
So if you move it over there to the, of course, to the finish, you'd be further away from your septic area.
Right.
Protected field lines.
Protect the field lines. I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, if I did have to.
Is anyone else here wishing to speak to this case? All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, we'll close the public hearing. In regard to 4096, do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve, and have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? Not all in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposition, vote no. The ayes have it, thank y'all. All right, our next item on the agenda, Tom has given everybody, I propose the dates, for the rest of the year, Thursdays every month from July through December. I move we approve these dates for the rest of the year.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on on approving the remaining dates and calendar? Not all in favor, vote aye. Aye. Opposition, vote no. The ayes have it. And the last thing, and I tell you what, I'm gonna take this out of, do I have anything else official? I'm gonna adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I just have something I need to submit to you just for the record. It's not nice, it's something that's been given to you, I did not give it.
Hold on just a minute, ma'am. Come up to the podium. And what is it we're about?
4087, and I don't know who gave this to you, but it was, I think it's in your packet. I'm just telling you, it has nothing to do with the property that you question. It's property someplace else, so I'm just wanting this on.
That is that on the church?
No, that is for the one.
Oh, the very first
Yeah,
one.
yeah, they do. I guess Karen, someone submitted it to you, and you gave it to me, and I appreciate all your help. But this has nothing to do with the property. I just want on the record that this is not.
That's the septic approval for the property that's on Legend Road.
Right, and it's a house. It's not Dr. Wright's veterinarian office, it's a house.
Yes.
It's beside his
I
office.
think that's what we feel, that's
It-
an over record.
It just says it's installation or repair record for a septic tank system, and this is not the system, and that's the question goes. Just for the record.
I don't know what to do with that other than turn it into staff. And it
I've
becomes
got
part of the
it.
record. You
Yeah,
got
I
it?
got it.
And it doesn't have anything to do with, I mean, it doesn't look like it's an installation related to our 4087. I don't know.
No, it went with the case.
it went with the property that's on Lebanon Road.
I understand you had, I don't know what to do with
I've got a copy.
it. It's in the record already. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Just as long as it's not related to our situation.
No, it's not related to your property. No.
Thank you. Okay, unless someone else has some more official business, Tom has something he's gonna share with us, I think. But I think we can adjourn the meeting. Okay, so we are adjourned.